Brighter Light, Darker Shadow by Baking into Infinity. Read by Oakshadow 5. This episode contains chapter 22 and 23, so let's get right into chapter 22, A New Camp, part 1. Summary: Izuku and Co. go to camp. There are rocks.
Alright, everyone aboard the bus,
Aizawa says as he climbs into a seat and falls asleep immediately. The class falls onto the bus noisily, waving goodbye to their 1B counterparts as they board their own bus. Their bags were stored on a large container below, and Aizawa had made them give up their phones into a small bag before boarding, since the camp was supposed to be tech-free to help them focus on improvement. A few members of the class seemed rather stressed about this, which Izuku thought was somewhat understandable, but a bit dramatic. It's not like anyone who might text would kill them after all. So, Bakugo, how do you confess your gay crush? Todoroki deadpans one across the aisle, sending the blonde and Hitoshi into a coughing fit simultaneously. "Why the fuck are you asking me that, Peppermint?" Kachan says. "You are dating Shinzo, yes. You must have asked him out then." "What the fuck? We aren't fucking dating!" "Oh, you just had his hand a lot after everyone got back from the mall. I assumed. Sorry." "It's fucking fine, Candy Cane." "My name is Todoroki. Sorry if I forgot to introduce myself."
Everybody off. Bathroom break. Leave your carry-ons here. This will be a quick stop.
Aizawa calls out, watching the students file off before he disembarks himself. "Where's the bathroom?" Kaminari asked nervously, starting to edge back towards the bus.
Stay. I would like to welcome our hosts. It is their land you will be staying on.
The tired teacher tells his class, huffing softly as the wild pussycats come bounding in. "We've come to lend a paw and help, coming out of nowhere. Stingingly cute and cat-like. Wild pussycats!" "Oh my gosh, you're all so cute!" Ragdoll drowns out Izuku's quiet fanboying with a shout, running over to grab Kachung by the cheek. "When you turn 18, call me," she coos, ignoring Shinzo bristling beside him. "I call dibs."
Ragdoll, stop assaulting my students.
Aizawa calls out tiredly.
I swear to God, you're worse than Midnight. We need to find someone else to run our summer training camps.
"Unfortunately, no other hero owns the massive amount of private land we do, which allows you students to use their quirks freely," says Pixie Bob, making finger guns at the students in question. "I'll try to rein Ragdoll in though. She's just at that age where women start to worry about marriage. For now, wave goodbye to your students." Izuku's already running as she finishes her sentence, and the ground rumbles underneath him. He had figured that they wouldn't be stopping here for no reason, and there was obviously no bathroom. Aizawa was simply too efficient. If this was just for a meeting, then he would have held it at the camp itself. Sure enough, his classmates are swept off the cliff behind him by a wave of dirt and rocks. Izuku angles his body as he falls, landing smoothly in a tree and hanging from it as he studies his groaning classmates. "You have 3 hours to make it to the camp or you don't get lunch," calls out Pixie Bob. "Just head north and watch out for the beasts." Izuku drops from his tree a moment later as one of the beasts in question demolishes it without warning. Around him, the class is forming up, stronger students moving to the front as Chihiro and Shoji start calling out warnings and directions to them. Izuku moves in the center of the pack beside Shinzo and Koda, breaking off to climb trees and help out here and there as they march through the woods. Izuku crawls out of the woods 8 hours later with a groan, the sun starting to set in the sky above him. The rest of 1A is beside him, equally exhausted. The first had been horrible, an endless assault of wave after wave of earth beasts. After the heavy hitters in the class had given into quirk exhaustion, the rest of the class had pitched in to chip away at the beasts one at a time. Izuku thought his arms would never be the same again, numb after knifing Rock over and over. "Sorry about that, kiddos," Rector says cheerfully as they approach. 3 hours is the time it would have taken the team of us to do it." Someone grunts again. Izuku can't tell who. A moment later, they throw up, marking them as Uraraka. "As a treat, we made you dinner though. This is the only night you won't have to cook, so make the most of it." A tired cry of "curry" makes its way through the students, and they painstakingly drag themselves to benches to enjoy the meal. The curry is rich and well-made but simple, full of hearty vegetables and served on rice. To the tired students, it may as well be the most delicious meal ever made for them, and not even the grumpy child eating it with them can spoil it. Later that night, they relax in the hot springs, Izuku taking great amusement in the blushes coloring Kachan and Hitoshi's faces as they sit in the water across from each other. Izuku himself merely enjoys the water, closing his eyes for a moment to focus on the soothing sensation of hot water playing across his sore body. "Koda, what are you doing up there?" Ida's question draws Izuku back from his meditation and directs his attention to the small boy perched on top of the fence.
You could fall! How did you even climb that?
I'm playing guard duty, in case any of you get the wrong idea. As he says this, Kora starts to tip backward slowly, a look of panic flittering across his face. Izuku clambers out of the pool hurriedly, taking 2 steps off the wall and grabbing the top of it to vault over. As the boy tumbles off the fence, Izuku is there to catch him like a gangly football. He balances on top of the fence for a moment, precariously swaying as he tries to calm the child in his arms down. A whistle from below draws his attention, and he glances down to see Uraraka and Mina waving at him happily from their hot spring, the water not covering as much as he wished it would. Izuku starts, staring out an apology as he tries to back away from the girls, the rest of whom sink under the water to preserve their modesty. His foot catches nothing but air, and he tumbles off the wall and onto the stone with a heavy thud and the crack of his elbow striking hard ground. Kora leaves his chest immediately, unharmed by the fall save for some fear. Izuku picks himself up off the ground to peals of laughter from both sides of the pool, walking inside to get a towel as his elbow smarts with a bruise already forming. Despite that, he can't help the happy grin that paints his face, enjoying the group camaraderie.
Alright, Tomura, you know what to do.
Sensei's voice crackles over the TV as Tomura straps on a combat vest, artist gloves rubbing unpleasantly against his dry skin. Yes, Sensei, Tomura says, motioning to his assembled crew as the purple warp gate swirls in front of him. Muscular and Moonfist step through, cackling into tones of murderous insanity. I'll kill them all and retrieve the girl, don't worry. That was chapter 22, and now we'll continue on to chapter 23, A New Camp, part 2. Summary. The test of courage happens, and people are courageous. Shigaraki makes his move. Alright, kittens, Mendeley says, clapping her hands together at the end of dinner. Tonight, we have a special treat for you, a test of courage. Izuku feels a wide grin spread across his face at the news, visions of fear and destruction dancing in his eyes. The classmates nearest to him edge away slowly, Uraraka fidgeting as she watches him clench and unclench one hand. In the background, Aizawa drags the remedial students away where they are distracted by Izuku's aura. You're scaring the extras, nerd, Kachan says, smacking Izuku on the back of the head and breaking him from his plotting. Oh, haha, Izuku says, rubbing the back of his neck. Sorry guys, let's win this together. Class 1B looks over at them warily as Mendeley explains the rules. Each class would take a turn hiding in the forest and preparing ways to scare their classmates. The class up to be scared would have to walk the path to Ragdoll at the end of the forest and then make their way back down the other half of the loop. Whoever had the most students successfully meet up with Ragdoll and make it back would win, with ties broken by Ragdoll's quirk. The class quickly organizes, and 1B makes their way into the woods to prepare. Where they give 1B the head start, Mendeley determines the pairs. Izuku is paired with Asui, who he doesn't really talk with, but seems like a solid partner. Kachan gets paired with Hitoshi and spends the waiting time growling at everyone when they snicker. When Mendeley signals that the first pairs can make their way into the woods, Kachan angrily grabs Hitoshi's hand and storms off, oblivious to his partner's blush and the renewed wave of laughter behind him. The rest of the class slowly trails in after them, each pair separated by 2 minutes of waiting, so they couldn't take solace in groups. Izuku makes his way into the woods in the middle of the class, Asui at his side. Neither of them are particularly afraid, and Izuku whistles merrily where they walk. So, Midoriya, Asui says, are you dating Uraraka or Mina? They have both acted oddly around you, Carol. I'm not dating either of them, Asui, Izuku says with a laugh. Kamitsu? Okay, Tsu. Anyway, neither of them has said anything about dating. I think both of them just like teasing me, and Mina is stepping out Uraraka with her odd fear of me. You are very oblivious, Carol. What do you mean by that, Tsu? Izuku says, turning slightly to face a noise in the bushes. Oh, hey Monoma, how's it going? Monoma glares at him from where he is hanging upside down on a tree, making a scary face and holding Setsuna's head on his hands. You're a freak, Midoriya, he says exasperately. Stop smiling like that, it isn't your turn to scare people yet. Okay, Izuku says, waving happily as he and Tsu continue onwards. Say hi to Todoroki for me. Fuck you, Midoriya, Monoma calls out behind them. They finish their cycle without too much issue. Izuku smiles happily when each of his sister classmates pop out to scare them, and Tsu stares stoically the entire time. Ragdoll gives them the popsicle stick and congratulates them on being the least scared of the class so far. When Izuku leaves the woods, he sees a blushing Kachan still holding Hitoshi in his arms bridal style. He immediately bounds over to them, giggling happily. Kachan groans as he approaches. "Yes, Izu, we are finally dating," Kachan says, cutting him off. "Yes, you called it. No, you can't take pictures to send to Mina." "Oh," Izuku says, pulling up short beside them. "Well, congratulations. I'm glad you formally adopted our introvert Kachan. Now he can be a part of the family for real." Hitoshi swats at him, tumbling out of Kachan's arms and growling. They wrestle across the ground while Kachan face palms above them, the rest of the class laughing happily in the background. Izuku is more content than he can remembering being, surrounded by the people he values. "Alright, 1A, Class 1B is entering the woods now. Good luck!" Mendelay's voice rings in Izuku's head as he crouches in the boughs of a tree, carefully adjusting the mask covering his eyes so it doesn't scratch the makeup sloppily applied to his face. Yaoyorozu had been very useful during their prep time, and Izuku now found himself with a ratty blindfold and a litter of fake blood drenching him. Apparently, he looked truly horrifying, especially when he smiled. The blood was food safe thanks to Momo, so he had a large amount held in his cheek. When he grinned, it oozed through his teeth and dripped everywhere ominously. He was his own station, since his class didn't think he would need any help from them. They had placed him halfway through the first half of the loop, aiming to keep people from getting their stakes. A third of 1A hadn't been able to handle the fear and had run back, so they needed more than that of 1B to fold to win. His first victims approach, picking their way along the path warily. Izuku grins wide, letting all of the lessons that Gang Orca taught him shine as he drops down in front of them, staring at where his ears tell him they are. The screams echo in the woods, and he slowly scuds up the road towards them, giggling happily. "Congratulations to Class 1A for your victory," Mendeley says later as the students gather around the campfire wrapped in blankets. "And congratulations to Monoma and Yui for being the only pair to make it around the full circuit while 1A was scaring." The remedial students have filed out to join them now, and everyone is gleeful at the promise of a fun campfire and a slightly later start to training the next morning. Jiro pulls out her guitar, and the two classes spend the evening singing campfire songs and roasting s'mores together. Izuku challenges Todoroki to a small roasting contest and loses miserably as Todoroki demonstrates the new control of his fire he gained at internships. Todoroki leaves the center of the ring to go sit by Monoma, and Izuku winks at the blonde as he settles down beside the blanket that contains Kachan and Hitoshi. At some point, everyone starts to nod off, and they make their way to bed happily, bellies full and hearts satisfied at the good company. As he drifts off, Izuku reflects on how grateful he is to be here with everyone, and that he still has the chance to be a hero, even quirkless. Shigaraki Tomura steps out of the warp gate and throws his arms wide with a laugh. Behind him come Muscular and Moonfish, along with a small group of well-trained villains. Everyone involved in the mission is a hardened killer, and they are loyal to him to a man. To him, not to Sensei, which makes Tomura feel warm inside at his success. Kogiri materializes beside him, mist swelling anxiously as he surveys their target.
"Alright, Shigaraki Tomura.
The mistman's gravelly voice rings out in the crisp night air.
It is time to show the world your greatness now in truth. Avenge your failures at the USJ and show Sensei what a worthy successor you are."
That was chapter 22 and 23 of Brighter Light Like a Shadow. These two chapters were amazing. I haven't read a story with the test of courage because it's always interrupted by the attack. And also, this episode is the anniversary episode for this month. So thank you all again for being here, and I hope you continue to enjoy my podfics. Bye!